Viewer discretion is advised. His hunting instinct rang out again. He could tell that she was running on the floor underneath him. He raised his arms above his head, then started pounding the ground of the dilapidated site over and over again until it gave way. After jumping into the newly formed entry, he rushed in the direction of his target. Charging through wall after wall, he eventually caught up to the woman. The woman continued running. She looked over her shoulder to see the monster catching up to her more and more. Too engrossed in her escape attempt, she had failed to realize that she was outside.
Oh no,
The woman said, knowing her fate, and it wasn't the monster behind her that she was worried about. The monster could feel the tremble in her voice, as well as the heat emanating from outside. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you a tale from the SCP Foundation. In the shadowy world of the SCP Foundation, we confront countless monsters and anomalies. But did you know there's another unseen threat lurking in the corners of the internet? That's right, our organization's online security is crucial. That's why we trust NordVPN to protect us. Personally, I love using NordVPN to unlock movies, series, and sports from around the globe. It's amazing that by switching to Japanese Netflix, I can now watch my favorite anime, Attack on Titan. And the best part, I can do it securely and privately. We really appreciate that one NordVPN account can be used on up to 6 devices simultaneously, protecting your data on every gadget you own. With NordVPN, you'll experience faster broadband speeds and be safeguarded against malware, intrusive tracking, and malicious ads, even when not connected to a VPN server. Don't wait. Secure your digital life by visiting nordvpn.com/therubber to get the 2-year plan with an exclusive deal plus 4 extra months. Plus, it's risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you're not satisfied, you can easily get all your money back. Keep cyber threats at bay like the SCP containment. Stay safe online with NordVPN. Click the link below and take advantage of this limited-time offer now. He was alone. Alone in the site that once contained him. He could remember that this place used to be full of scientists and agents. They had given him the name Shy Guy. But now, there is only the shadow of what the site was. These shadows are fleshy things that would just ignore him, and he too would ignore them in turn. Why? Because they never looked at him or his face. He didn't go outside. The outside scared him more than anything. Yes, he was scared of the outside, but not because he would become one of those shadows, but because he had the horrible feeling that someone would look at him, at his body, his face. He also knew that it would not be a person that was looking at him. It would be the ball of fire in the sky, the sun, and there wasn't a single thing he could do about it. Sure, he pondered over the idea of going outside at night, but he was still too scared. Besides, he had no reason to go outside. Inside the site, he was alone. Inside the site, there was no one to look at him. Inside the site, he was free to cry alone in the darkness. Inside the site, it was paradise. One day, while he was sobbing alone, like every other day, he heard a voice of a woman. He could hear the woman asking for help and food. Through the sound of the sobbing, he could hear her approaching little by little. The voice of her begging for help was getting closer. When the woman got to the room he was in, she screamed in fear, deathly terrified by the scraggy, pale monster that was sobbing in the corner. Surprised by the scream, he turned around and saw the woman, with a small child holding her hand. The woman was looking directly at him. He could feel the anger and emotion that he hadn't felt in a long, long time, creeping up to him. He screamed so loudly that it stunned the woman and sent her stumbling backwards. He could feel the anger boiling again. Then he realized she looked at his face. Not just anyone's face, his face. The monster's rage took hold of his body as it trembled with the urge to chase and hunt. She had seen his face, so she must die. He let out yet another deafening screech. It was a sweet release of all that pure, primal rage contained within. He hadn't felt so alive in such a long time. The woman scrambled out of the room in sheer panic, leaving behind the child who was holding her hand. The monster gave chase. She ran towards a light that gave off some kind of heat. Eventually, they reached the outer facility. Her body started melting as soon as the light hit, beginning with her head. Her nose slid off her face. One of her eyes popped out of her skull, hanging on by a single, stringy vein. She tried to move back into the shadow under the facility, but her legs had already melted into a red, fleshy mush. She screamed in pain until her mouth was no more. The monster looked furiously at his dying prey, stolen from him. After the painful death of his target, he returned to sobbing as usual. However, he was interrupted yet again by the sound of another human. Not from the woman, as she was now a shadow like the rest, but from behind him. He turned around. The little girl who had been holding the woman's hand was now standing in front of him. She was bawling her eyes out while calling the name of her mother. She rubbed her eyes and opened them, then looked in the direction of the pale monster, directly at his face. Moments passed. He waited for his anger to swell up, but it didn't come. She was clearly looking directly at his face, yet he felt not a hint of rage. He was confused, so he approached the child to ascertain what he had just witnessed. Strangely enough, the girl didn't really look at him. Sure, he and the child clearly made eye contact, but the girl did not see his face. This little girl was blind. She was still crying and asking for help. She assumed there was someone else with her since she heard the sound of crying. She walked forward while lifting her arms to avoid bumping into something else. Upon touching the monster, she said with a tiny and innocent voice, "Mommy?" These simple words touched the monster. He had thought he would only feel sadness and anger for the rest of his life, but these words changed everything. With this realization, the confusion turned to happiness. He looked at the little girl closely, as if he was making sure that she was indeed real. He slowly wrapped his long arms around the girl, then hugged her. The girl hugged him back. The crying of both the monster and the little girl stopped. They lived together. The monster had found himself a friend, and the little girl had found herself a guardian. When the monster interacted with the girl, he felt human. He was treated like an animal in his cell, like a monster. Nobody ever thought that there was a heart inside the ruthless killer. For the first time, he found someone that could understand him. Likewise, the girl was happy with the monster. Even though she didn't know what he looked like, she knew him for what he was deep inside. He was a surprisingly good parent. He would protect the girl at any cost. The monster would bring the girl food, mostly scavenged from other survivors. On one occasion, the girl tripped on a metal beam. The monster was so furious, he destroyed the beam as he would any other prey. He gripped the beam between his long fingers, then slammed it into a wall, screaming furiously until the wall collapsed. Afterwards, there was nothing left of the beam, and the girl seemed happy about it. She had total confidence in the monster, confidence he shared. Nothing could stop them. The only thing that ever bothered them was the fleshy shadows. These wriggly things tried to make prey of the little girl. Sometimes they would attempt to lure her into the brightness of the sun by imitating the sound of her mother. Other times, they would simply try to kill her outright. Fortunately, every time the shadows became a nuisance, the pale monster would swiftly correct them. They couldn't approach the girl. Their deceptive voices failed to reach the girl, drowned out by the screams of the monster. The monster protected the girl no matter what. There was only that one day, that one single moment that destroyed everything. The monster and the little girl were playing around with the rubble of the site. He was lost in thoughts. He thought of the sun, the big red monstrosity that broke the day, and was waiting to break his day. He had a bad feeling churning inside. Then he looked back at the girl, only to see that she wasn't near him anymore. He looked all around him, but she was nowhere. He quickly left the room, only to see her walking toward the entrance. She was 2 feet from the entrance, 2 feet from outside where she would meet the sunlight. She was following the voice of the Shadow Man, but this one wasn't imitating the sound of her mother. It was imitating the voice of the crying monster. He was too far from the entrance, so he ran fast, faster than when he would track prey. The girl wasn't stopping. She was still following his false twin's voice. He was so close to reaching her, but the girl was already outside when he arrived. She screamed in pain as one of her arms began to melt. Her body went into shock, and she immediately passed out. The monster made a choice. Without hesitation, he rushed out of the building to confront the sun. He too began to melt, but he pushed on still. He got above the little girl and shielded her from the sunlight that was trying to do her in. The pain was immeasurable, but it didn't matter, so long as he protected the girl. He knew he would not survive. He just hoped that the girl would. The monster dragged her back into the site while blocking any sunlight from reaching her. She remained unconscious, and her left arm was missing. His body didn't stop melting. He knew he would soon become one of these flesh things too. And so he took one final look at the girl and shed a single tear. The tear landed on the arm of the child, and by some miracle, the melting stopped. He ran away as fast as he could from the site to make sure that he would not harm the child, stopping only when his legs were melted entirely. He couldn't see the site anymore. He was now looking upon the vast sea. The monster laid on his back and looked at the sun one last time, placed just above the horizon. He looked on as his eyes melted. He unleashed a long, powerful scream that could be heard from a mile away. A scream so powerful it dragged the dust off the ground, carrying it far into the distance. A scream of sadness mixed with anger. Then the screaming stopped, leaving behind a silence, a dead silence. We hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to click like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. Have a favorite SCP you want to see on this channel? Leave us your suggestions in the comments down below. In the meantime, if you'd like to see more SCP content, then check out some of our other videos right here. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye-bye!